A warm welcome to our extraordinary council meeting today. And before we start off, I'm going to ask Councillor Wharehinga to do a karakia for us.
Tēnā tātou e te whānau. E o ngā manu, tēnei te whakamuimea tatu ki a koe mō tēnei hui ngā amata. Arehina mai ki au ki te tika, ki te punu a mātou, tukua mai tō wairo tapu hei manaki, hei awhi, hei tiaki ki a mātou. Anei mātou e tuohu nei mui tuaroaru, aka tuku I tēnei inui, I rungi tingo tō mātou kai whakore Ukraiti. Amen.
Well, today is a joyous day and we start off this meeting welcoming a new colleague to around our table today. So, Isaac, on behalf of us at the GDC, it is an honour to welcome you to join our team today. And everyone in the gallery, welcome here today. You might think this is a very low-key event to welcome our new colleague, but what we are doing today is having the swearing in, and then on the 10th of December, we will have a pulphery with Isaac and his family and do it properly, because today we're digging into 3 very important meetings. We have got quite a day ahead of us. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Isaac to come forward. Now that I've opened our meeting, I'm going to ask you to come forward, and you have a declaration to read. You can do it either in English or te reo or both, and then you will sign the declaration. It will be signed by our CEO as well. So Isaac, I invite you to come forward.
Ko ahau, ko Isaac Te Atawhai Hughes, e oati ana ka pono, ka matatika ahau, I runga no hoki I te mutunga ke mai o ōku pukinga, o ōku whakatau hoki, kia whakatutuki, kia mahi anō hoki ahau I ngā mahi mo te painga o te rohe o te tai rāwhiti, ma te mana whakahaere, te mana whakatau, me ngā momo mahi kua uhia ki runga I ahau, hei kai kaunihira o te kaunihira ārohe o te tai rāwhiti. E ai hoki, ki te ture kāwanatanga ākainga rua mano mā rua, ki te ture kāwanatanga ākainga whakapai me ngā hui ngā tahi mano iwa rau wari tikau mā whitu, me ētahi atu ture anō hoki.
Use this flash pen. There we go. Congratulations. There we go, and this is you. Well done, and we look forward to getting your proper. Do you want to say a few words?
Kia ora koutou katoa. I just want to say thanks for all the support and everyone that helped me get here. Really appreciate it and look forward to acting for the benefit of Te Tai Rāwhiti. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Okay, we're going to move straight into our, what is this? Yes. So we move straight to our big agenda. I am going to do apologies. I have got Councillor Cranston on Zoom. Is he on Zoom, Heather? Any other apologies? No. Where's Heather? Any declarations of interest? None. I've got leave of absence for Councillor Foster. Heather, is Councillor Cranston on Zoom? Can you just check? Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Akuata Brown. All in favour? Contrary carried. Thank you. Acknowledgement and tributes. Nothing that we're aware of. We've done our acknowledgements. Public input and petitions. Extraordinary business, notice of motion, adjourned business. We move straight to page 4. So what we are going to discuss today is electoral decision, Maori wards, and we're going to open it up the CEO will say a few words, and then I want to assure councillors I will not be running standing orders today. I will make sure everyone get a say if you want to have a say. So don't get nervous. I'm not going to cut off people. If you want to have a say, I will make sure you have the opportunity to have a say. So I'll hand over to our CEO now, and then after that, I'll open up the floor for discussions. Thank you. Thank you, Nadine.
Kia ora tātou. So what I thought I'd do is just spend a little bit of time going over summarising the report, given the importance of the decision that's to be made today, which might also clarify some thoughts or areas that you might be thinking about, and then open up for questions if we can have questions at the end. So just in terms of the substantive decision to be made today, so the decision is for you to make as to whether or not to establish one or more Māori wards in time for the 2022 and 2025 triennial elections. And why are you deciding on that today? So that is if council wishes to have those wards in place for the next election, it's required by legislation to resolve to that decision no later than today, the 23rd of November. Just a reminder that you also resolved in August to engage with the community on this matter to inform your decision making. So just in terms of some obligations to Māori that council does have under legislation and also outlined for you in the report, the Local Government Act goes into great detail around the need to improve participation into decision making, and also to consider ways in which you can foster the development of Māori capability and capacity to contribute to decision making. In addition to that, the Resource Management Act also recognises Māori interests in the natural and physical environment, and has specific provisions for consulting and working with tangata whenua. And as we're seeing a lot more changes in legislation under the RMA, which is making that even more so. So just in terms of the engagement with our community, we commenced that engagement in August and we concluded that in November. It was a comprehensive engagement process, including hui in the city and the district, many Zoom sessions that our friend James here carried out, webinars, social media channels, online hard copy submissions, and so forth. We received by the largest amount of submissions that we have on Māori wards in terms of compared to previous times, 293 submissions, and our online presentations were viewed over 1,600 times. So just in terms of tangata whenua views, we received 18 formal submissions that represented over 60 organisations, Family Trust, iwi, hapu, marae and kura. All but one of these submissions were in support. Of the 13 formal written submissions we received on behalf of organisations that represented 57 different marae and hapu. And the general feedback in terms of supporting Māori wards was that it would, the council would meet its tiriti or waitangi obligations, that we would achieve fair and effective representation, and that Māori perspective and Māori world view were important for decision making. Just a reminder in terms of submissions overall, close to 70% saw value in establishing Māori wards. So of the 293, so that's about 188 submissions. And 68, they're about 67.6, confirmed that they would like to see Māori wards established. So what is being recommended by staff and why? That council establishes one or Māori wards. And the recommendation, so that's the option 2 recommendation in the paper. Why? So strong positive support from iwi, hapu, marae, kura. Overall positive support from submitters that we received. There are legislative and council has aspirational drivers to achieve this. Overall, it aligns with what council's outlined in its strategic direction and community outcomes and new vision statement. It will also strengthen council's commitment to tangata whenua and to te tiriti, and will assist in achieving effective and fair representation, given Māori making up 50% plus of the 50% of the population. So what will this look like is often a question that comes up. So it's the decision is around Māori wards first and foremost. The second step is around the form and the structure, and that will be carried out through a formal representation review process, which will include community engagement, options, submissions, and the hearings process. The actual number will depend on what that final form and structure looks like, but if we assume that we have what we've got now in terms of the number of councillors, the formula when calculated gives us five Māori ward elected from Māori wards councillors. So this is, I don't know if it's very easy to see. Okay, so this is just a bit of a flow diagram, which I thought will be helpful in terms of the options that are presented. So option one, and these follow the options in the report. Option one is your status quo, or no decision. So you decide maybe you leave this lie on the table. There is no public notice that's required. We just carry on, unless a demand poll is received. If we receive a demand for a poll by the 21st of February, we must then give notice and hold that poll by the 21st of May. If that poll says yes, then we have to undertake a representation review process next year, and it will take effect in the next election, 2022. If that poll says no, then we're going over here to our 2024 representation review process. The recommended option is option 2 in green. If you resolve to establish one or more Māori wards, you must give notice of that. If you do not receive a poll demand, then we undertake a representation review next year. If you do receive a demand, then we go through that process on that, my left-hand side here. The other option is, in option 3, is to resolve to hold a poll. So you can do that in either two ways. You can resolve to hold the poll to give effect for 2022, that is the next elections. So you would need to resolve to that and hold a poll by the 21st of May next year. Or you could effectively defer that decision to give public notice of resolution and hold a poll at the next elections, 2022, which effectively takes you down to a representation review process in 2024 for effect in 2025. So just a bit about demand polls in the national context. Thought you might be interested if you haven't been keeping track of what's happening around New Zealand. So there are currently 3 local authorities with operative Māori representation arrangements. 2 of these have only been successfully introduced Māori wards by resolution since 2002, which was the Bay of Plenty and Waikato Regional Council. The Bay of Plenty has specific legislation that makes them have Māori wards in place. Wairoa District Council, which was used as a case example, only recently, through its second poll, established Māori wards. At least 9 other councils have tried, so they've resolved to establish wards, but every time it goes to the poll, or 9 times out of the 10th, which was Wairoa, they have failed at the poll. I might also mention that this is one of the reasons why the Minister is looking at removing the demand poll once a resolution has been made because of this. And I'll also point out that voters do not have an equivalent power to demand a poll where council decides to establish a general ward or general constituency. It's only on Māori wards. These are the local authorities that have this year just resolved to Māori representation. And these are the local authorities that have recently reserved to hold a poll or defer that decision for electors until 2022.
Any questions of the CEO? Questions of clarification? Now's your time. Josh. Councillor Wharehinga.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for clarity, if this motion was to fail, our community would be able to demand a poll asking for seats. That's correct? Thank you very much.
Yes, correct.
Any more questions off the floor? No. Well, let's open for discussion. We are on page 4 of 208. Councillor Wharehinga and then Councillor Seymour.
Sure,
so just make sure I'll give you one opportunity, and then at the end, if there are more, I'll give another opportunity. Councillor Wharehinga, the floor is yours.
Kia ora, Your Worship. I'd like to move this paper. I'd like to move the recommendations, and I'd also like to speak to it. And so this is very straightforward. As local government, we have a treaty obligation in order to establish Māori wards. That treaty obligation comes from, well, we are a creature of statute out of central government. Central government have an obligation to Māori seats. That's been made clear in legal opinions all over the place, most notably by High Court Justice Palmer, the son of Sir Geoffrey Palmer, former PM, and constitutional expert in regards to how crucial Māori seats are for democracy in our country. Because local government is a creature of central government, created out of central government, we also have that same obligation. So this is very easy for me. So I implore my friends to move this paper on without any fuss or any bother, because actually this is the right thing to do as elected representatives under the mantle of local government. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Thank you for that. Councillor Seymour, you are next.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Microphone, please.
Thank you, I'm Councillor Wharehinga. We certainly do have an obligation to the Treaty of Waitangi, but I'm not sure that all of the statements made by my colleague are accurate. I have a couple of questions, Madam Chair, that relate to submissions submitted on behalf of iwi and Maori that say we have not consulted with hapu or marae. Now that is referred to in almost every one of the submissions in front of us. So my recommendation will be that we poll our community, because it is we have 188 submissions in support of Maori wards, but within those 188 submissions, a number of people, while the general tenor is support, they raise the issue that they were not consulted, and they further raise the issue that in a couple of instances, 2 meetings were held, but the day before submissions closed. So I think that we have not heard from all of our community on this matter, and 293 submissions is one portion of our community. So while I have absolute support and actively work for our community across the board and totally support all of that, but I do think that we have not undertaken this process as well as we could, and we have heard that from iwi and Maori leaders' trusts. And we have some other issues where some representations see quite small pockets, and I'll just mention Ngāti Onei's submission, who see a Maori ward for Ngāti Onei. I think we need to be fairer in the information we share, that it might not be able to be such a small pocket. And unless we go out with genuine information to our community and accepting that desire for Maori wards, it might be that Ngāti Onei can't have just one ward. So there is a lot of material, and I thank the Chief Executive for covering off the broader picture today, but in actual fact, the option 2 poll is option 3 in this paper. So I just have that korero, and those are my comments for now. Thank you, Madam
Thank you.
Chair.
I'm just going to ask I am no comments, please. We are asking everyone, this is a conversation where we will respectfully ask people to share their opinions, and then we will, so this is an open council discussion, but please just, we can't, if there's lots of chatting happening, we can't hear what is being said. So I'm just asking everyone, just be mindful of any comments. Mr. Beatty, thank you. Just in response to what Councillor Seymour said, and then Councillor Burdett, thank you.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you, Councillor Seymour. Incidentally, I recall those submissions, and particularly at the hearing where those opinions were made. Incidentally, those submitters were also supportive of the establishment of Māori wards. I think you might recall that the sentiment was that had there been wider sort of community engagement, you would have received more support for Māori wards. I just wanted to make that point. Also, just as a matter of law, and I applaud Council for seeking wider public comment on this matter and wider community engagement such that we have, but as for the law, Council's actually not required to consult publicly on this matter. It's much the same as what you had a decision for FTP and STV, that it is well within your remit and mandate to make this decision. The fact that Council sought public community engagement on this matter was really a matter of good practice. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Burdett. Microphone, please.
Intended to turn it on, Madam Chair.
Oh, good on you. Oh, everyone's standing today.
Tēnā koe, as I said earlier, your parents would be very proud of you, and your papa and Nanny, if she was still with us, even prouder. Ngā mihi. I believe sincerely in the electoral system that we have, but I also believe that Maori wards are the future. In terms of where we are at present, you heard the CEO talking about other councils having a go. We've heard about polls, and I just remind our Deputy Mayor, I don't need a lecture on my responsibilities. I'm a product of Maori voting for Maori.
Point of order,
relevance. 7 elections, still here. So it can be done. The only query I have, Madam Chair, is we need to get the right people at the table, and that is an issue. In terms of most of those submissions, the requests were for us to appoint people to the committees, and I say appoint. The Wastewater Management Committee worked very well, and it still does, with the exception of 4 or 5 years ago. That might be a way for the future, I don't know. But what I am saying is, I'd like to think that this is a progressive council, and maybe the way forward, despite a poll that could well turn this over, is for Maori wards. Kia ora.
Thank you, Bill. Councillor Dowsing next. Microphone, thank you.
Thank you. I think there's 2 statements at the start of this in the presentation that sum up exactly why I'm in favour of this and in absolute support. And it was that we're obligated to improve participation, and we don't see the participation levels that we would like to see, and that we're here, and that we need to foster development of Māori governance, and this is absolutely an effective way to do that. Those 2 requirements of council, not options of council, requirements, are exactly why I'm in support of this.
Thank you. Councillor Gregory and then Councillor Akuhata Brown.
Thank you. I've read all these submissions and listened to all of the people at hearings, and I can see this very clearly. I support the formation of Māori wards in Tairāwhiti for a number of reasons, and the most important one is that the representation of Māori at the decision table isn't there. I don't believe we have enough compared with our population. I understand the thinking that there is every opportunity to get elected by any person of any ethnicity in a general election, but it's not true. There have not been the same opportunity in the past for Māori, and Māori have not been engaging with the local body system for the last 250 years, and it's time for change. I have seen change in my short time here, and I'm very proud to be part of that change. I understand the thinking of some councillors that we're not clear on exactly how it will look. There would undoubtedly be a loss of rural and city ward representation. But I know the importance of the rural industries and the rural view at the table, and during the representation review, which I understand follows this decision, alongside the community, we'll be able to input into that to make sure that we're happy with how it all finally looks. My last point is that to not have Māori wards, in my opinion, it is not pono, it is not tika.
Thank you, Councillor Gregory. Councillor Akuata-Brown. Microphone.
Kia ora koutou, ata Māori. The time is always right to do what is right. As a statement I have on my phone, because I believe that this isn't a racist discussion, it's a righteous one. It's time to do the right thing by our people. A number of submitters noted that we have Māori representatives around this table. We have people of Māori heritage. Me, ko Waikato te iwi. Engari, e noho ana ahau, ki te ranganui a kiwa. I am proud to sit at this table. I'm very proud. And I want to pay homage to James and to our CEO, Nadine, and all the staff that have been working tirelessly in this space to get us to this point. To our Mayor, thank you. To my colleagues, thank you all for the dialogue we will have today in support of what makes sense, what is right. One submitter noted that we have Māori representatives. I need to be really clear. I've only claimed my Māori heritage in the last 12 years of my life because I wasn't raised Māori. I, in fact, didn't know I was Māori until I was 11. I didn't know what Māori was. That's inherent of my upbringing. My Pākehā father told us we were not Māori. So to represent Māori, for me, it's actually hard work, but it's a journey that I'm loving. I've been learning te reo, e te wānanga o Aotearoa. I went to my first tangihanga this year, my mother's tangi. So when people talk of this, there's an expectation that I stand here holding all this mana Māori that I do because of my tūpuna, because of the people who know me. So I'm not the spokesperson for every Māori or iwi in this region, as much as I love the notion of that. Kia ora. We pay thousands in consulting fees for expert advice. When I hear that word capacity, I've met capacity in my region, within my iwi, within my hapu, within whānau Māori. There's so much knowledge in this region, about the whenua, the awa and the moana, that we've never engaged because of systems, well, frankly, that are not Māori. This system. So today I believe we are doing what should have been done a long time ago. It's been a time thing. We've seen change. We have the youngest elected at our table today. He's all of 27 experienced years, and he is here. Ngā mihi, Isaac, I'm so excited to have you here. When I first arrived at the governance table, the average age of a councillor was 68. And he looked a certain way. Fundamentally, when I arrived at the table, there was more concern about the colour of my hair, the colour of my skin. But it's natural. Thank you. I see change. I see 6 women around this table now. That has changed. We have our first woman mayor for this region. That has changed. My favourite song throughout the election was Change Gonna Come, because it has come. But 20 women mayor were elected in the nation. So for women's rights, we're very proud, very happy about that. But only one was Māori, our Pōtiki mayor. So I know change gonna come, and it's a slow change. It's a trickle, but it's happening. Kia ora, Councillor Gregory, for your kōrero. Change has come, indeed. And it's time for more change. Change that sets right the path for all of us. One of our submitters brought her son in here. She shared her 8 generations of whakapapa. And I want to see that young man be proud of this region, this te tairawhiti that we've all grown up in and we love, because he will see true representation at the table of governance. That the power shift will be there for him, so that he will be proud to stand and know he has a place of standing. So today I'm so excited about this. I really am. I woke up this morning just so excited. I've been getting a whole lot of emails from a whole bunch of people that are not so excited, but they've got to have their say. So from my Welsh, Scottish and English ancestry, our land too had some issue, our awa and moana. Don't be afraid. Fear not. This is all good. This is all good, and it's time. So embrace and be a part of this partnership that has been wanted for so long. My children will be proud today to see this stand that we make, because it's about their world. It's about their generation at the table. So kia ora to you all. Thank you for being here. For me, I'm absolutely excited about this, and I believe Te Tairawhiti will do a great job in mandating this moving forward. To our rurals and to everyone that is concerned about representation, just know that we hear you, but we'll get that right. So kia ora koutou.
Kia ora, thank you. Councillor Faulkner, Councillor Worsnop. Good.
Good morning. I have notes because I want to get everything said that I believe needs saying. So excuse me if I read. We collectively are being asked to make a social conscious vote today. One that can only come from our hearts and from the way our experiences shape us. So first to my experiences. When I first went to Wellington with a mandate to speak on behalf of farmers in this region, I was very often the only woman at the table. For the men surrounding me, I was a bit of a novelty, and they often commented that I brought colour to the table. But I had the lead of other exemplary women, the likes of Kate Shepherd and our very own Esme Tombleson here in this region. For thousands of years prior, women were thought to be of lesser value, not physically or mentally tough enough to be leaders. But look around this room today and tell me that the women of this region have not proven their worth. None of the women in this room, and I include our friends down the back here, are here because some man put a chair out with their name on it. They are here because they were fostered, encouraged, and enabled by the communities around them, and there is a lesson in that. And I had the words of my father ringing in my ears. If you want to complain, be prepared to do the work and come to the table with a solution. And so to my heart today. I look around this table and indeed this room, and I see leaders, champions and servants of the medical sciences, law, journalism, sport, industry, business. I hear the voices of youth support, the environment, of IT, of parents, of the future, and of faith. The roadmap to diversity has already been drawn and courageous women held the pen. We are all beholden to lift up those around us when the path is steep, but strength comes from making the climb. I will never vote to belittle or diminish the effort and the desire to serve this community shown amongst my colleagues here at the table and indeed across this entire organisation. Equally, I will never vote to silence the voices of our rural townships, our farmers and our forestry communities. They hold the keys to our economic and environmental well-being as a region. The prosperity of this region rests with them and must be presented here. All that said, however, we have legislation in this country that afford Maori the right to choose which electoral role they feel best reflects them. Our central government has Maori seats enshrined in law. To me, it makes sense that those on the Maori electoral roll can vote for their own choice of representatives, both locally and nationally. If this council votes today to establish Maori wards, thus triggering a representation review, then my challenge to our CEO and her democracy team is this. Bring us a proposal that adds to the talent at this table, rather than one that reduces representation in other areas. Bring us a proposal that challenges the local government rules, that we can get in behind and we can advocate for. Bring us a proposal that we can ask our local MPs, Minister Allen and Minister Whaitiri, talk about women leading the way, to take to Minister Mahuta in her role as Minister for Local Government to ask that she consider what makes our people and our place unique and therefore worthy of a unique model of representation. We can take the lead on this. We can bring our community together on this journey with us. All it takes is for each of us to stand up, to extend a hand to those making the climb, to have the courage to add to what we already have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Warsnop.
Seeing as how we have a standing theme, which I noticed
I'm very impressed that councillors are stepping up.
we never stand. We totally never stand ever, except for Josh.
We used to stand at council meetings and it was only when we got the microphones that we sat, but I think we should stand at council meetings from now on.
Very relaxed. So first of all, thank you all for coming. It's really good to see our population, our public so engaged in decision making. It's pretty rare actually to see so much engagement in the decisions that are made at this table. The thing I'd like to touch on first is probably firstly, I think that the paper that we have is not particularly realistic in terms of the outcomes that we're likely to see. And in fact, I would suggest that the risks are under-presented to us. The reason I say this is because our submitters did a far better job of identifying the fact that there is a very high chance that the decision made at this table, which I think I can suggest the decision that we made at this table, you will have heard there is a mood in favour of this decision. There is a high chance that that will be overturned by the public. Given that our submitters have conveyed this, and they've also put to us a number of suggestions, and I really want to urge this table to think about the ramifications of having this decision pass, having a petition lodged, and then having the vote be no. That gives us another 6 years with no change, right? And that is broadly accepted to be quite a likely outcome. We have only Wairau. Wairau is the only example out of since 2002 where it was not overturned. If you genuinely want to respond now, we need to do it in a different way, right? I don't know, and I'm disappointed that the background behind the disbandment of the Tangata Whenua Standing Committee wasn't part of this paper. I don't know the background of that, and I wish I did. I don't know the options in terms of whether or not we can appoint people in the interim to help us go on this journey and identify what this picture should look like in terms of, at the moment, the legislation does not allow us iwi wards, and yet most of the submissions were in favour of designating specific iwi boundaries. Simply charging ahead and going, oh, look, we feel good about this, that's not good governance. We need to plan it better than that. We need to do better than that. I don't have the answer right here, right now, but I know what the likely outcome of simply accepting this decision and patting ourselves on the back will be. We need to go a little bit deeper than that. And we also need to acknowledge that the Minister herself has been very clear in that she intends with urgency to review the current legislation. That may give us more tools in our kiti than we currently have. In terms of representation, do we have representation as it was intended around this table for Māori? No, clearly, right? That's really obvious. And I think the question we should ask ourselves is it supposed to be representative? Well, the Commissioner decided in the last representation review that rural communities would not adequately be represented if their representation was not protected with wards. So if you apply that argument, then in fact there is a place for protecting the place of Māori at this table. That, I think, is shown by the reviews that we have done before. The problem that we have is that how we enact that successfully is probably not the decision that is before us. I think we have to be realistic about that. I think beyond what occurs here, we need to be mindful of what else we can do. Just let me check my notes in case I've forgotten anything. So probably lastly, and this is something that I am a little bit disappointed about, the last representation review did not consider Māori wards. I fought tooth and nail to protect the rural wards, and I did not campaign on giving up any of those. That is an enormous risk for myself and probably for all of the other rural councillors here to support this. It's a big risk. We could lose our rural wards, and we did not warn people about that. We have not had conversations with our community beyond the last few months that said, we might not be here to represent you. In the event that rural wards are lost, in the event that we no longer define who and where the boundaries are, rural Māori will be no better off than rural anybody else. So that is enormously important to me. I take a bit of a leap of faith if I support this movement, and we are, as rural councillors, vulnerable to that by dean of our numbers, right? I hope that those around the table acknowledge that. And I desperately hope that we manage together. We actually need our iwi partners beside us and with us on this journey, acknowledging that what is potentially the likely outcome from this decision. You're going to need to work with us on what else in the interim, right? Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Worsnop. Councillor Robinson.
Tēnā koutou, kia ora everyone for being here, and thank you very much for those people who submitted. Incredible calibre of submissions, an absolute delight to read and to hear the submitters last week, and I want to really recognise and honour mana whenua, tangata whenua, kia ora. 2001, the Local Electoral Act was passed, which empowered the creation of Māori wards. It's 19 years ago. 2002, the Local Government Act was passed, which obligated councils to empower and enable. It wasn't an option, it was mandatory. The wording of the Act says council must enable and empower Māori to participate in the decision-making process. So we have the means to do it and we have the obligation to do it, and it has sat latently impotent for almost 2 decades. Throughout this entire motu, just one council has succeeded in passing that Why? Why has only one council succeeded in passing Maori wards in almost 20 years? Well, we know the answer. We know the answer, but no one wants to say it. Our system reflects the dominant culture. Is that the Maori culture? No, it's not. Of course it's not. No one wants to lose power. We've heard it today. No one wants to lose their voice. But the fact is that if Maori wards are created, we add to the conversation. We do not take away from it. We win-win. We don't win-lose. But try telling that to average Joe. We've all received the emails. We've seen the letters to the editor. We have a massive challenge ahead of us because, yeah, invariably there will be a poll. 1,625 people will find the need to put their name on a bit of paper to have a referendum. And then we're really going to have to deal with the muck. But that is why we've been elected, and that is why your voices have contributed. And that is why over the next 7 months, we have a huge challenge to really fight for this kaupapa. And we've really got to do it. We've really got to fight for this kaupapa. Because if there's one thing that we do in our time here is to ensure that this succeeds. That when we go out into our community and have these conversations, we really fight for this. Because it's the time. It's been overdue for 20 years. And I don't want to be part of a council and live in a community that's still trying to hold on to the 1960s or the 1860s. Yeah? We're moving forward. We can do it with grace, or we can do it screaming and kicking. Now, our institutions, our forebears have done that. They've held on to power. They've been reluctant to share it. I'm sorry. It's time's been called on that. Let's get real, okay? There are two communities in this, many communities in this community, but there's two main communities in this community, and the main community is Maori. By percentage of population, it's Maori. By structure, by iwi, by business, by knowledge, by everything, it's Maori. Yet our institution does not enable you currently to be at this table and participate in the decision making. That's got to end. This piece of legislation wasn't passed last week and we're all going, oh, what to do now? This was passed almost 2 decades ago. So I hear what my rural councillor friend says, a fear about the rural wards being lost, but there's no guarantee the rural voice will be lost. We live in a really small area where everyone has connectivity between the city and rural. Right? We've all got whānau who are, I've got uncles who are farmers, we've all got connectivity. And the reality is that the representation review previously spoke about community boards. So even if there was a loss of rural wards, there would certainly be in place something which is still going to capture and represent the very important rural voice. That should not be a fear for us not capturing the very important Maori voice, which is currently not fully captured and adequately reflected at this table. So it is with pride I stand here today before my fellow councillors and before you and say I totally tautoko this recommendation. And I really hope that our community comes on board with us on this journey. It's so overdue. So, yep, Madam Chair, Your Worship, I support the motion.
Thank you for that. Okay, people, we are going to go to Councillor Cranston on Zoom and then Councillor Sheldrake. Thank you. Andy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can't hear you. Just make sure your microphone is switched on, turned on. Heather will...
I am unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Firstly, a warm welcome to Councillor Hughes. I see him sitting there in the picture there, so good to see some new blood on there, so welcome, Councillor Hughes. Hey, kaupapa whakahere he tēnei hui, me mai tahi tātou mō te pai o te hāpori, mō te pai o te rohi, mō te pai o te tangata katoa. Fair representation is a shared vision and a desire, but the decision is made difficult by the immaturity of our knowledge. When it comes to the big decisions like this, I try to fully analyse, including all the unintended consequences. This is so difficult with the current lack of description of the outcomes. We hear that saying yes, kei te pai, but saying cow, proof of racism. We're all trying to do our best here. Through my tenure, open discussions such as this feeds division all too easily. I believe to be called a racist is to be called evil. In my case, nothing could be further than the truth. I lived and worked in South Africa under apartheid. I was unceremoniously expelled from the country. My passport had a huge full-page red stamp, which states I was an undesirable alien. The reason was I was engaging with and befriending coloureds. Apartheid means separate development. To me, separatism is just a slightly gentler sounding term for racism. As a policy, I fear it, I loathe it. The extent it got to was the Durban beaches going north with a whites only beach, an Indian only beach, a coloureds only beach, and a blacks only beach. Ni Blanqui signs were non-whites, were directing people of colour to go into set queues and that. It was friggin' ridiculous, especially if the waves happen to be better on the blacks only beach. My experience has me as a staunch anti-separatist. Me mahi tahi tātou. Separating and segregating our democracy is not a good pathway. As a representative of all the people of this community, the fact that the proposed system is poorly understood is a concern. We will see further dilution of the rewards, and iwi and hapu will still feel a specific lack of representation. Maori are not a homogenous people. We are coming in blind of the operational detail, and I fear a system which could lead to divisiveness, an us and them mentality around the table. And that fear extends to the potential of inter-iwi and hapu separatism. I understand Te Tiriti responsibilities, but I'm yet to be convinced that splitting our democracy on a race basis is a wise way forward. Surely democracy sees us all wanting the personal ability to select the council makeup we want, rather than only few based on their race. The ward proposal deprives both parties the ability to vote for the council they want. There are many indications that this is not fully understood. Good council needs to be a good team, and their community wants the ability to elect or select the best players. Let me give you a rugby analogy. In a rugby team, there's 15 players. Now we want to get the best team, so we decide we've got a pool of 40 players, and to get the best, we're going to use Councillor Cranston and Councillor Wharehinga. They are going to select, in Councillor Cranston's case, all the forwards and the halfback. Councillor Wharehinga, he can select the rest of the backs. So Andy's selecting 9, Councillor Wharehinga is selecting 6. But then we further complicate it by saying, well, Councillor Wharehinga is only going to select the Maori players. But Councillor Cranston, he will possibly only select the Pākehā players. So then I'm in a situation of not being able to select the perfect front row of Maori players we've got, because they're moved under the auspices of Councillor Wharehinga. Councillor Wharehinga has got the likes of Geordie Barrett and Bowden Barrett, but they're not in the Maori ward, so he can't select them because they are Pākehā. So to have a system which restricts our ability to select the best team is erroneous. We do want to be able to select the best people in the best positions for the task at hand. And that task at hand is to get the best council. But I do look forward to continuing our journey to really come up with a model of partnership and participation which works for the whole community. I reserve the right to decide on a clearly defined model as opposed to the vague model we're trying to second guess today. Noko aki e nei whakaaro. My preference is an establishment of a strong tangata whenua committee of council. Make it representative, inclusive, and empower it. It needs to be done properly and given all due respect and authority. Done well, this option will give iwi and hapu far more voices and wider representation than a couple of racially selected councillors. And from this group will then come the advice of what is the most truly fair and appropriate partnership and participation model for us all. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Sheldrake.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, Isaac. Good debate to start with. You could look at this and say, well, we are 51, 49% Maori, non-Māori in our region. And, you know, then you might look at another region and see where they've only got 10 or 11% and think, well, they definitely need separate Maori wards because of the percentage. But here it is 50-50. So just get people to get out and vote. So I understand it's not that simple, and certain group do not wish to vote. I just wish we had a lot more information on what this practically would look like and how it would work. And I hear from Councillor Burdett, it's about making sure the right people get to the table. I too worry about the rural wards, and we had Federated Farmers here saying we support Māori wards, but we also don't want to disestablish our rural wards, councillors and wards covering the regions. So it is, a lot of words have been spoken. I don't want to repeat them, but a lot of it's going to be on massive good faith and working together. And it's a decision that I have flip-flopped on in my mind. You read stuff, certain people who probably help myself, in this case, get into council, have a different opinion to other people. I've talked to a lot of Māori friends, and, you know, some of them are even undecided. But it's never been tried before. It's always failed. It's 2020, we're about to be 2021. We've had this shocking COVID thing over our head. It seems we got hit with the endeavours, and now a week later we're getting hit with this. But in fairness to staff, this has certainly been going on behind the scenes, but it's just where people want to, how high they want to put their own flag, I suggest. So I accept and I hear the voices around the table. I believe this will go through. I also sort of semi-believe pretty strongly there will be 1,625 signatures come in, and it'll go this next step as other issues have. So without revisiting what everyone said, I really respect the input. I don't like people coming in and telling council we're racist, we're this, we're that. I don't think that's the way to sell a point of view or perspective at all. We're all trying to do a good job. We're all listening. Some of those phone calls are pretty ugly, but you know, big people wear the big shoes. So thank you for coming, and I look forward to the decision.
Okay, Councillor Hughes.
It has been a tough call for me, split between the realist in me and the idealist. The idealist in me would like this to all work itself out and we build a fair representation, but the realist in me says that's not happening. So in that respect, I support Māori wards being developed. I appreciate what Kerry has said. The realist in me again believes there will be a poll, and at this stage, I'm not sure which way that will go. So I think in the meantime, it's up to us as a community to work for greater engagement, especially with youth, especially with Māori. I mean, the by-elections are a prime example. I'm happy to be here, but 32% of voter turnout, and I got about a third of that, so only about 10% of people want me here. See the door. So in that respect, but I think that's something we can do in the meantime. This is, if this does pass, it's only going to come to place in 2022. So that's up to us as a community in the meantime to work and put the onus on ourselves and not leave it up to the council and external parties and get our communities involved. Kia ora.
I will have the last say. I think everyone had a go. So thank you so much for everyone here today. Thank you for taking the time to submit. This is a contentious issue. We all know that. We have received emails supporting the issue. We have received emails absolutely blasting it out of the water. So for all of us here today, I think the question that you need to ask yourself, the question I ask myself as the mayor is, what we currently see, is it fit for purpose? And I think the obvious answer is no. So this gives us the opportunity to see and work with our community to see how do we make our representation fit for purpose. We've got a unique population here in Tairāwhiti that I'm proud of to represent. And this is our opportunity as councillors to go out and talk to our community, especially those that don't understand. There's a lot of not understanding how it works. Some people think if you are on the Maori roll, you can also be on the general roll. So it is our job now, because my gut feeling is that this will fly through. Our job now is to go out and get our community on board, tell them why this is good for us, and also make sure, I'm right behind our rural councillors as well. This is our opportunity not only to address Maori representation, but also to put our weight behind our rural councillors. And at the end of the day, we can look at the representation model we have, because now we'll have some time to do that. And I want to acknowledge James and Nadine. We are here today in an extraordinary council meeting, because if we don't vote on it today, it is excluded for the next 2 elections, which means we can get a poll of 5% of our voters saying, yes, we do want you to establish Maori wards, do a poll on it, or then also that opportunity for people to raise the poll, say, no, we don't want it. But hey, whichever way it goes, what a lovely opportunity for us as a community to talk, what to say to each other. This is what I see as fit for purpose. This is how I feel my voice will be heard better. So today, even though we make this decision, whatever the vote will be, which I'll pass now because everyone had a say, this is our responsibility to go out and talk to our community and listen to our community and hear what is fit for purpose. Because even though we feel rushed into a decision today, because by national legislation, today we need to make that decision, we as elected members now have the responsibility to go out and talk to the people that support it, talk to the people that don't support it, talk to our rural community as well, to make sure we carry those voices, because our biggest job is going to come when we do our representation review. So each of us now have a responsibility to equip us with what our community want to say, to make sure when we do that representation review, we bring all voices to the table. So without further ado, I am just checking to see that I've missed nothing off. I have missed nothing off. Councillor Wharehinga, right of reply, and then I'll put it to the floor.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I really, really loved your words there. I do just want to respond to some things that were shared around the table, particularly the concerns or the risks around the poll provision. You're absolutely right, that is a huge risk. And when people refer to the racism that exists inside organisations like the council, they refer to those systemic racist pieces of legislation that only apply to Māori. So they're not meaning us individually, they're meaning those things that are built into the system that help perpetuate a further racist system. And that was one of the things that always worry me about establishing Māori wards. I go, oh man, I've been on the other side of the council table yelling at council to get things done in former mahi on behalf of the community. And it was defeating when those things wouldn't be able to get through council. And I had those feelings of, oh man, am I setting my community up for defeat again if we do this? However, I spoke first about the treaty, and I now want to speak about trust. We need to trust our community. We need to trust the East Coast community to do the right thing. You're absolutely right, Councillor Watsnott. This is a huge leap of faith. It's a huge leap of faith by everyone around here in terms of our representation for our communities, because the city ward councillors are reducing in number too. You know, this will definitely affect our viability around the table. But I do want to remind us too that Māori live in the city and also Māori live rurally. So that urban and rural representation will still occur around the table, but also be informed by a Māori worldview. I have heard concerns about what this will look like. That will be picked up in the rep review, and like your worship said, it's on us to help foster that communication and help foster that kōrero. We can land this together. That deeper consultation with hapu will occur during that representation review. I love the idea about a tangata whenua committee. Councillor Cranston, why not both? Everybody knows around the table that I'm first and foremost a father, and I got into this kind of mahi because of my kids, who are largely female and largely Maori. And when I first came into here, there was only 2 people that I could point to as examples of political representation in here. Councillor Akuhata Brown and Councillor Firecracker, Councillor Dunn. Prior to that, Councillor Poananga. Few and far between. Female and Māori. But point note in regards to Councillor Hikuai, Councillor Seymour. We have 3 strong Māori wahine that represent us in central government here, you know, for the first time ever. This is like my dream coming true in front of me. You know, I thought, hand on heart, I thought that I would not, sorry. Hand on heart, I did not think I would see this day until my girls got older in terms of representation. And I love the fact that they have that at central government level. And Māori wards is that for my babies, which is why I've moved this. I want to leave us with the last note. If not us, then who? And if not now, then when? We need to pass this resolution. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Is Red's microphone on?
Well, I will do that again. Pursuant to Section 19Z of the Local Electoral Act 2001, resolves to establish 1 or more Māori wards for the Gisborne District Council for the 22 and 25 elections. 2, directs the Chief Executive to undertake the required statutory process to establish 1 or more Māori wards, including notification of the public's right to demand a poll. 3, pursuant to Clause 1, Schedule 1A of the Local Electoral Act 2001, undertakes a representation arrangements review with an initial representation arrangement proposal required no earlier than 1 March 21 and no later than 31st August 21. This will be followed by public consultation, and the development of a final representation arrangements proposal and subsequent appeals/objections process. All in favour? Contrary? Carried. Let's have a cup of tea, everyone. I officially close the extraordinary meeting. We will have a cup of tea for 15 minutes and come back to our workshop. Thank you.